Hello, my friends, and welcome to Law and the Life. I'm your lawyer, Patrick McGeehan, and I am your best friend at your worst time. I try to bring you information and news from the Florida legal system and the legal system around the country, which is useful to you. On this installment, we have Broward County Sheriff Gregory is facing disciplinary action from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I discovered this last month when I received my monthly bulletin from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement listing officers from Florida who are facing disciplinary actions. The disciplinary action surfaces or concerns some statements that Sheriff Tony made regarding his driver's license applications when he was a police officer. Apparently there were some inconsistent statements, in the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, as a result of a 2-year investigation, is alleging that he made perjurious statements on those applications, and that's what they're proceeding on. The council met, and the partial council determined that there was probable cause to proceed with disciplinary actions against Sheriff Tony on these issues. And if you don't know who Sheriff Tony is, Sheriff Tony was appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis when Sheriff Scott Isreal, who was the sheriff during the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting incident, was removed from office. Governor DeSantis appointed Sheriff Tony, and then Sheriff Tony faced an election which included Scott Isreal. And if you'll know who Isreal is, let me get a picture of Isreal up here. This is Scott Isreal. When he was removed from office, he appealed his removal to the Florida legislature, exhausted all of his appeals, and ran against Sheriff Tony for the next election coming up, and Sheriff Tony handily defeated him. Scott Isreal is now the chief in Opelika, which is a small city in northern Dade County. Broward County is no stranger to controversial sheriffs. We had Sheriff Isreal here, who, like I said, was the sheriff during the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, and is accused of, at that time, was accused of his deputies not doing enough in the shooting and not going in, and that's a subject for another video. But like I said, Broward County is no stranger to controversial sheriffs. The first one I remember was Sheriff Nick Navarro. He was a sheriff that made his own in-house crack cocaine to use in buy busts. He is also the sheriff that went after my good friend Luther Campbell. If you know who Luther Campbell is, he's the front man for the group 2 Live Crew. Sheriff Navarro went after them in the 80s on decency charges, actually arrested them on indecency charges, and it went all the way through the appeal system and on First Amendment grounds, and the members of 2 Live Crew and Luther Campbell were cleared on that. In addition to that, you had Sheriff Ken Jinney, who was the sheriff in the 90s, I think in the 90s, early 2000s or so. He was the sheriff before Scott Isreal. He was appointed by Governor Lawton Childs when Sheriff Cochran passed away in office. Sheriff Jinney was in office for several terms. He was very popular in Broward County. His son is a congressman in Broward County, I believe it is. Does something political in Broward County. Anyway, Sheriff Jinney was indicted on, I think it was fraud charges or theft charges. Anyway, he was eventually took a plea and went to federal prison. So Broward County has had their problems with sheriff, and these are just a few of them, just a few that I remember off the top of my head. I'll keep you posted on what happens. The next step in the case against Sheriff Tony will be a hearing before the full panel of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Standards and Training Commission, where they'll decide how to go forward on the petition on the disciplinary action. Sheriff Tony is facing anything from suspension to decertification. What happens if he gets decertified? Nothing really. He loses his law enforcement certification, but in Florida, you do not have to be a certified law enforcement officer to be sheriff. Sheriff Jinney was not a certified law enforcement officer, and he was sheriff for a very long time. You just can't wear your gun and your uniform, but you can wear a suit and you can run the sheriff's office just like a regular sheriff would. You just have no police powers. I'll keep you updated, let you know if any other information comes along. I'll pass that along for you. Be careful out there. It's a dangerous world. Be careful who you take your legal advice from, and I hope everything works out for you in your endeavors and your goals in life. Until next time, I'm Patrick McGeehan, and this is Law and the Life.